Have you ever looked at an old country music photo and thought, there's no way they're still alive today? Many of the legends who dominated country radio decades ago have outlived entire generations of stars and are still here, defying time itself. Some continue to perform, some live quietly away from the spotlight, and a few are still surprising fans well into their 80s and 90s. We're counting down 12 old country stars who somehow beat the odds and are still with us today. Dưới đây là nhân vật đầu tiên theo phong cách The Country Rewind, độ dài khoảng 450 to 502. Noel, Willie Nelson. If there is one country music legend people are always surprised to learn is still alive, it is Willie Nelson. For many younger fans, Willie Nelson feels less like a living artist and more like a permanent figure in country music history. His career began so long ago that he was already writing hit songs before many of today's country stars were even born. Yet somehow, decade after decade, he keeps going. Born in Texas in 1933, Willie Nelson grew up during the Great Depression and was performing music while America was still recovering from World War II. Long before he became a superstar, he struggled to make a living as a songwriter in Nashville. His unconventional voice and laid-back style did not fit the polished country sound that dominated the industry at the time. Everything changed during the 1970s. Willie became one of the faces of the outlaw country movement, rejecting Nashville's strict rules and creating music on his own terms. Albums like Red-Headed Stranger transformed him from a respected songwriter into one of the most recognizable country stars in America. His braided hair, bandana, and rebellious attitude became iconic. Over the years, Willie survived challenges that would have ended many careers. He battled financial problems, faced tax troubles with the IRS, endured health scares, and watched countless friends and fellow country legends pass away. Entire generations of artists rose to fame and disappeared, while Willie remained a constant presence. That is one reason so many people assume he is no longer alive. After all, he was already a major star when legends like Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, and Merle Haggard were dominating country music. Today, all of those men are gone, but Willie Nelson continues to carry the torch. Perhaps the most remarkable part is that he has never truly retired. Even in his 90s, Willie has continued recording music, appearing at concerts, and connecting with fans across the country. While his schedule is understandably lighter than it once was, his passion for music remains unmistakable. Many artists spend their final years looking back on old achievements. Willie keeps creating new ones. Fans who see recent photos of him are often shocked. The man who sang country classics more than half a century ago is still here, still smiling, and still performing. At an age when most people have long left the spotlight behind, Willie Nelson remains one of country music's most enduring survivors. He has outlived trends, rivals, controversies, and even entire eras of country music. And somehow, after all these years, the outlaw is still writing. 11. Dolly Parton. Few names in country music are as universally recognized as Dolly Parton. Her voice, personality, and larger-than-life image have made her one of the most beloved entertainers in American history. Yet despite remaining visible in popular culture, many people are genuinely surprised when they stop to think about just how long Dolly has been famous, and realize that she is still going strong today. Born in the mountains of Tennessee in 1946, Dolly came from one of the poorest backgrounds imaginable. She grew up in a tiny cabin with 11 siblings, and her family often struggled to afford even basic necessities. Music became her escape. While other children dreamed of leaving their hometowns, Dolly was already determined to become a star. Her breakthrough came during the late 1960s and early 1970s, when she appeared on national television and began building a loyal fan base. What followed was one of the most extraordinary careers country music has ever seen. Songs such as Jolene, Coat of Many Colors, and I Will Always Love You transformed her into a country superstar. Later, Hollywood's success expanded her fame far beyond the country audience. For many fans, Dolly belongs to a completely different era. She was already a household name when many of today's country stars were children. She performed alongside legends who have long since passed away. She witnessed the rise and fall of multiple generations of artists. Because her career stretches across so many decades, some people simply assume she must no longer be alive. The reality is far more remarkable. Not only is Dolly still alive, but she remains one of the most influential figures in entertainment. While many performers fade from public view as they age, Dolly has continued finding new ways to stay relevant. She has launched business ventures, produced television projects, released music, and expanded her charitable work. Her Imagination Library program alone has provided millions of books to children around the world. Perhaps what surprises people most is her energy. Even after decades in the spotlight, Dolly still approaches life with the same enthusiasm that made audiences fall in love with her years ago. Interviews, public appearances, and special projects continue to remind fans why she became such an enduring icon in the first place. There is also something deeply inspiring about her story. Many celebrities spend their later years protecting a legacy. Dolly continues building hers. She has managed to remain admired across generations without losing the warmth and authenticity that defined her from the beginning. Today, Dolly Parton stands as living proof that true legends do not simply survive the passage of time, they rise above it. From a poor Tennessee mountain girl to one of the most respected women in entertainment history, her journey remains one of the greatest success stories country music has ever produced. And against all odds, the girl who dreamed of something bigger is still making history. 10. Bill Anderson. When people think about country music legends who are still alive, Bill Anderson is often one of the last names they expect to hear. The reason is simple. His career stretches back so far into country music history that many fans assume he belongs entirely to the past. Yet somehow, after more than 6 decades in the spotlight, Bill Anderson is still here. Born in South Carolina in 1937 and raised in Georgia, Anderson showed an early talent for writing. Before becoming a star himself, he gained recognition as a songwriter. One of his earliest compositions, City Lights, became a major hit and immediately established him as one of Nashville's most promising young talents. Soon, Anderson stepped into the spotlight as a performer. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, his smooth voice and conversational singing style helped him become one of country music's biggest stars. Songs like Still, Mama Sang a Song, and Po Folks earned him a devoted audience across America. His soft vocal delivery eventually earned him the nickname Whisperin' Bill, a title that followed him throughout his career. What makes Anderson's story so remarkable is not simply how successful he became, but how long he managed to remain relevant. Most country stars enjoy a few years at the top before fading from public attention. Bill Anderson somehow reinvented himself repeatedly. As musical trends changed, he continued writing songs. As new generations of artists emerged, they sought his advice and respected his craftsmanship. While countless performers disappeared from the charts, Anderson maintained a presence in Nashville that few artists could match. That longevity is precisely why many people are shocked to learn he is still alive. Bill Anderson was already a major star when country music was dominated by artists whose names now belong to history books. He performed during an era when television was black and white. He shared stages with legends who have been gone for decades. To younger fans, he can seem like a figure from another world entirely. But Anderson never stopped working. In fact, one of the most impressive chapters of his career came much later in life. Decades after his biggest hits as a singer, he enjoyed enormous success as a songwriter. His compositions were recorded by modern country stars, introducing his work to entirely new audiences. Few artists can claim chart success across multiple generations, but Anderson accomplished exactly that. Even today, he remains closely connected to country music. He continues making appearances, telling stories, and celebrating the genre he helped shape. His sharp memory, quick wit, and unmistakable voice still remind fans why he became such an important figure in the first place. Perhaps that is the greatest surprise of all. Bill Anderson is not merely surviving. He remains an active link to country music's golden age. In a world where trends come and go with incredible speed, Whisperin' Bill has become something increasingly rare, a living piece of country music history who continues to witness the legacy he helped create. And after all these years, his story is still being written. 9. Jeannie Seely. If there is one person who truly embodies the phrase defying time, it may be Jeannie Seely. For many country music fans, her name immediately brings back memories of the 1960s, an era when classic country ruled the radio and the Grand Ole Opry stood at the center of the genre. Because her breakthrough came so long ago, many people assume she quietly disappeared from public life decades ago. What surprises them is that not only is Jeannie Seely still alive, she has remained one of the most active figures in country music. Born in Pennsylvania in 1940, Seely developed a love for music at a young age. Before becoming a star, she worked various jobs while pursuing her dream of performing. Like countless aspiring singers before her, she eventually made her way to Nashville, hoping to find a place in the competitive world of country music. Her breakthrough arrived in 1966 with the release of Don't Touch Me. The song became a major hit and earned her a Grammy Award, instantly establishing her as one of country music's brightest female stars. Her rich voice, confidence, and ability to connect emotionally with listeners helped her stand out during a period when female artists often faced significant obstacles in the industry. Success quickly followed. She appeared regularly on television, toured extensively, and built a reputation as one of Nashville's most respected performers. Yet what truly separates Jeannie Seely from many of her contemporaries is what happened after the spotlight faded. Like many artists from her generation, she eventually saw country music change. New stars emerged, musical styles evolved, audiences shifted. Many performers from her era gradually retired or disappeared from public view altogether. Jeannie Seely chose a different path. Rather than stepping away, she remained deeply connected to country music. Year after year, she continued performing, writing songs, hosting events, and supporting the Grand Ole Opry. While countless legends became memories, Seely remained an active participant in the institution that helped define her career. This is why so many fans are stunned when they discover she is still alive. Not only is she alive, but she has spent decades doing something few artists ever accomplish, maintaining a meaningful presence in the industry long after her commercial peak. Her longevity became even more remarkable as fellow stars from the 1960s and 1970s gradually passed away. Each passing year made her survival seem more extraordinary. She became a living connection to a disappearing generation of country music history. Today, Jeannie Seely is often viewed as one of the Grand Ole Opry's most enduring ambassadors. Her dedication, resilience, and genuine love for country music have earned her enormous respect throughout Nashville. In many ways, her story is not simply about surviving old age. It is about remaining passionate long after fame fades. More than half a century after her biggest hit first reached audiences, Jeannie Seely continues to represent the heart of traditional country music. And that may be the most remarkable achievement of all. 8. Connie Smith. There are country legends, and then there is Connie Smith. To many longtime fans, she possesses one of the greatest voices country music has ever produced. Yet because her biggest hits came so many decades ago, countless people are surprised to discover that she is still alive today. In fact, not only is Connie Smith still here, but she continues to be admired as one of the most respected artists in the history of country music. Born in Indiana in 1941 and raised in Ohio, Smith did not follow the traditional path to stardom. Unlike many aspiring performers who spent years chasing record deals, her rise happened with astonishing speed. After being discovered in the early 1960s, she signed with RCA Records and quickly recorded the song that would change her life forever. That song was Once a Day. Released in 1964, it became an immediate sensation. The record spent an extraordinary amount of time at the top of the country charts and established Smith as one of the most promising new voices in Nashville. Her powerful delivery, emotional honesty, and unmistakable vocal style separated her from nearly every other singer of her generation. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, she continued producing hit after hit. During an era filled with remarkable female performers, Connie Smith earned a reputation that bordered on legendary. Many fellow artists openly admired her abilities. Some even described her as the finest country vocalist they had ever heard. As the decades passed, however, country music changed dramatically. New sounds emerged, new stars took over radio playlists. Many artists from Smith's generation gradually stepped away from public life. Some retired, others struggled to adapt. Many simply disappeared from mainstream attention. That is one reason people often assume Connie Smith is no longer alive. Her career began so long ago that she seems to belong to a completely different chapter of country music history. She was already a star when artists who later became legends were still trying to find their footing in Nashville. Entire generations of performers came and went while Smith's legacy remained intact. What makes her story especially remarkable is that she never completely left music behind. Rather than chasing trends, she remained committed to the traditional country sound that first made her famous. Over the years, she continued recording music, making appearances, and earning praise from critics and fellow musicians alike. Her dedication to preserving classic country music has only strengthened her reputation. Many younger fans are introduced to Connie Smith through another famous country figure, her husband, country artist and songwriter Marty Stewart. Yet once they discover her body of work, they quickly realize why she earned such extraordinary respect long before that relationship became part of her public story. Today, Connie Smith represents something increasingly rare in the entertainment industry: authenticity. She never needed controversy, reinvention, or publicity stunts to remain relevant. Her voice alone secured her place in country music history. More than 60 years after her first major hit, she remains a living reminder of country music's golden age. And for fans who thought she was long gone, Connie Smith continues to prove that true legends never really fade away. 7. Barbara Mandrell. For millions of country music fans, Barbara Mandrell was once impossible to escape. She dominated television screens, sold millions of records, packed concert venues across America, and became one of the biggest female stars country music had ever seen. Yet because she stepped away from the spotlight years ago, many people are genuinely shocked when they discover she is still alive today. Unlike some artists who remain constantly visible, Barbara Mandrell chose a different path. Born in Texas in 1948, Mandrell displayed extraordinary musical talent from an early age. She was not simply a singer. She was a gifted multi-instrumentalist who could play steel guitar, banjo, saxophone, and several other instruments. Even as a teenager, she was already impressing established performers with her skills. Her rise to stardom accelerated during the 1970s and reached incredible heights in the 1980s. During that period, Mandrell became one of country music's most successful artists. Songs such as Sleeping Single in a Double Bed, Years, and I Was Country When Country Wasn't Cool turned her into a household name. At the height of her fame, she seemed unstoppable. She won major awards, attracted enormous television audiences, and became one of the most recognizable faces in American entertainment. Alongside her sisters, she hosted the popular television program Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell Sisters, further expanding her reach beyond country music. Then came a devastating moment that changed everything. In 1984, Mandrell was involved in a serious automobile accident that left her with significant injuries and required a long recovery. Although she eventually returned to performing, many fans believe the experience profoundly affected her perspective on life and fame. Years later, she made a decision that almost no one expected. At a time when she was still respected, admired, and capable of filling venues, Barbara Mandrell retired from touring and gradually stepped away from public life. Unlike many celebrities who struggle to leave the spotlight, she embraced a quieter existence. That choice is precisely why so many people assume she passed away years ago. For younger audiences, Barbara Mandrell is often remembered through old television clips, award show appearances, and classic country radio stations. Because she largely disappeared from public view, many fans simply lost track of her. But Barbara Mandrell is very much alive. Her absence from the spotlight was never the result of scandal, illness, or professional decline. Instead, it was a personal decision. After spending decades in one of the most demanding industries in the world, she chose family, privacy, and a life away from constant public attention. In many ways, that makes her story unique. While countless stars spend their later years trying to recapture former glory, Barbara Mandrell walked away on her own terms. She achieved extraordinary success, built a lasting legacy, and then chose peace over fame. Today, she remains one of the most influential female artists in country music history. Her songs continue to inspire listeners, and her accomplishments continue to influence generations of performers. For fans who remember her from television's golden era, there is still something surprising about realizing that Barbara Mandrell is alive and well. More than 4 decades after her greatest successes, she remains one of country music's most enduring legends and one of its most remarkable survivors. 6. Crystal Gayle. For many country music fans, Crystal Gayle seems frozen in time. The image most people remember is the glamorous singer with impossibly long hair, standing beneath the stage lights and delivering one hit after another during the 1970s and 1980s. Because those memories feel so distant now, many are surprised to learn that Crystal Gayle is still alive and continues to be celebrated as one of country music's most recognizable voices. Born Brenda Gayle Webb in Kentucky in 1951, Crystal grew up in a family where music was woven into everyday life. Her older sister was none other than country music legend Loretta Lynn. While having a famous sibling opened some doors, it also created enormous expectations. Many assumed Crystal would spend her career living in Loretta's shadow. Instead, she carved out a path entirely her own. During the early years of her career, Crystal experimented with different musical styles before finding the sound that would make her famous. Rather than strictly traditional country, she embraced a smoother, more polished approach that appealed to both country and pop audiences. The gamble paid off. In 1977, she released "Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue," a song that transformed her career overnight. The record became an international sensation and remains one of the most recognizable songs in country music history. Suddenly, Crystal Gayle was no longer known as Loretta Lynn's younger sister. She was a superstar in her own right. Throughout the late 1970s and early 1980s, she became one of country music's biggest attractions. Her elegant image, distinctive voice, and crossover success helped her reach audiences far beyond Nashville. For a time, she was one of the most famous women in country music. Yet as the years passed, musical tastes evolved. New artists emerged. Radio formats changed. The spotlight shifted toward younger performers. Like many stars from her generation, Crystal gradually became less visible to mainstream audiences. Because she largely avoided controversy and maintained a relatively private life, she slowly disappeared from the headlines. That is one reason so many people assume she is no longer alive. To younger fans, Crystal Gayle often feels like a figure from another era. They hear her songs on classic country stations, see old photographs, or watch vintage television performances. The distance between then and now is so great that many simply assume her story ended long ago. But it did not. Crystal Gayle has continued making appearances, performing select shows, and participating in country music events. While she no longer maintains the relentless schedule of her peak years, she remains active and connected to the industry that made her famous. What makes her story especially remarkable is how gracefully she navigated fame. Unlike many stars whose lives were consumed by scandal, addiction, or public feuds, Crystal built a career based on consistency, professionalism, and talent. As a result, her reputation has remained largely untouched by the turmoil that affected many of her contemporaries. Today, she stands as one of the last surviving icons of a remarkable generation of country performers. For fans who remember hearing "Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue" for the first time, there is something almost unbelievable about the fact that Crystal Gayle is still here. Decades later, the voice that captivated the world continues to endure, and so does the woman behind it. 5. Randy Travis. Few stories in country music are as inspiring or as surprising as Randy Travis's. For many fans, the last major news they remember hearing about him involved a devastating health crisis more than a decade ago. Others remember the scandals and personal struggles that seemed to threaten everything he had built. Because of those difficult years, countless people assume Randy Travis is no longer alive. The truth is far more remarkable. Not only is Randy Travis still alive, but his very survival is considered one of the greatest comeback stories in modern country music history. Born in North Carolina in 1959, Randy grew up in a working-class family where music became both an escape and a passion. His teenage years were often turbulent. He had repeated run-ins with the law and frequently found himself in trouble. At several points, it appeared his life might never amount to much. Everything changed when music gave him a second chance. By the mid-1980s, Randy Travis had emerged as one of the most important voices in country music. At a time when country radio was becoming increasingly polished and pop-oriented, his deep baritone voice brought traditional country back into the spotlight. His debut album, Storms of Life, became a phenomenon. Soon, hits such as Forever and Ever, Amen, On the Other Hand, and Deeper Than the Holler turned him into one of the biggest stars in America. His influence was enormous. Many historians credit Randy Travis with helping revive traditional country music during a period when the genre was searching for its identity. For years, everything seemed to be going perfectly. Then came a series of personal setbacks and public controversies that damaged his reputation. Yet even those challenges would pale in comparison to what happened next. In 2013, Randy suffered a catastrophic stroke following a viral heart infection. The situation became so serious that doctors reportedly feared he would not survive. Family members were forced to prepare for the worst. Millions of fans believed they were witnessing the final chapter of his story. Against overwhelming odds, Randy survived. The recovery process was incredibly difficult. He lost much of his ability to speak and faced years of rehabilitation. Tasks that most people take for granted suddenly became enormous challenges. Many experts doubted whether he would ever appear in public again, yet Randy refused to give up. Over time, he gradually returned to public events, award shows, and country music celebrations. Each appearance became a powerful reminder of how far he had come. Fans who saw him standing, smiling, and interacting with audiences often described the experience as emotional. That resilience is exactly why so many people are stunned to learn he is still alive today. Randy Travis is more than a country star. He is a survivor. His story is not simply about fame or success. It is about determination, faith, and the refusal to surrender when the odds seem impossible. Many legends leave behind great music. Randy Travis left behind something even more powerful, a living example of perseverance. And after everything he has endured, the fact that he is still here may be his greatest achievement of all. 4. John Conlee. If you listened to country radio during the late 1970s and 1980s, there was a good chance you heard John Conlee almost every day. His warm voice, relatable lyrics, and unmistakable storytelling style made him one of the most successful country singers of his era. Yet despite producing dozens of hit songs and becoming a familiar face to millions of Americans, John Conlee is one of those artists many people are genuinely surprised to discover is still alive today. Part of that surprise comes from how long ago his biggest successes occurred. Born in Kentucky in 1946 and raised on a tobacco farm, Conlee did not take the traditional route to country stardom. Before finding success in music, he worked in radio broadcasting. That experience gave him valuable insight into the music business and helped him understand exactly what connected with listeners. Still, becoming a recording star was far from guaranteed. For years, Conlee worked tirelessly to establish himself in Nashville. His breakthrough finally arrived in the late 1970s when he released Rose-Colored Glasses. The song became an enormous hit and remains one of the most beloved records of his career. Almost overnight, John Conlee became one of country music's rising stars. The success continued throughout the 1980s. Songs such as Backside of 30, Common Man, and Lady Lay Down earned him a devoted fan base and multiple chart-topping hits. Unlike many performers who relied on flashy images or controversial publicity, Conlee built his career on authenticity. His songs spoke directly to working-class Americans. That connection made him especially popular among listeners who saw their own struggles, hopes, and experiences reflected in his music. At a time when country music was rapidly evolving, Conlee remained grounded in the everyday stories that had always defined the genre. Then, as often happens in the entertainment industry, the spotlight shifted. New stars emerged, musical trends changed, radio stations embraced younger artists. While John Conlee never completely disappeared, he gradually became less visible to mainstream audiences. Because he avoided scandals and lived a relatively private life, many fans simply stopped hearing about him. Over time, some even assumed he had passed away. After all, his biggest hits came decades ago. He belonged to the same generation as numerous country legends who are no longer with us. For younger fans discovering classic country today, it can be surprising to learn that John Conlee is still here. But he is. In fact, Conlee has remained connected to country music for years, continuing to perform and make appearances for loyal fans. He also became a familiar figure at the Grand Ole Opry, one of the most respected institutions in country music. Perhaps that is what makes his story so fascinating. John Conlee never needed constant headlines to preserve his legacy. His music did that for him. Decades after his greatest hits first climbed the charts, audiences still remember the honesty and sincerity that made him special. Today, he stands as one of the last surviving stars from a remarkable era of country music, a living reminder of a time when great songs and genuine storytelling were enough to make someone a legend. And more than 40 years after Rose-Colored Glasses, John Conlee is still proving that some voices never truly fade away. 3. Gene Watson. If country music had a hall of fame for longevity alone, Gene Watson would deserve a place near the very top. Unlike some artists whose fame extended into mainstream television and Hollywood, Watson built his reputation the old-fashioned way, through decades of relentless touring, unforgettable performances, and one of the purest voices country music has ever heard. Yet because he never chased celebrity status, many people are genuinely surprised to learn that he is still alive and performing today. Born in Texas in 1943, Watson spent years working ordinary jobs before country music finally opened its doors to him. He drove trucks, worked in auto body shops, and sang wherever he could find an audience. Success did not arrive overnight. In fact, by the time many singers would have given up, Watson was still fighting for his opportunity. That persistence eventually paid off. During the 1970s, he emerged as one of country music's most respected traditionalists. Songs like Love in the Hot Afternoon, Farewell Party, and 14 Karat Mind established him as a major force within the genre. His rich voice and emotional delivery earned admiration from both fans and fellow musicians. Many country artists enjoyed brief periods of success before fading away. Gene Watson seemed different. Year after year, he continued producing quality music while remaining fiercely loyal to traditional country. Even as Nashville embraced more commercial sounds, Watson resisted the pressure to reinvent himself. He believed country music should sound like country music. That commitment earned him something more valuable than temporary popularity: respect. As the decades passed, countless stars disappeared from the scene. Some retired, others struggled with changing tastes. Many simply could not maintain the momentum they once had. Watson, however, continued doing what he had always done: touring, recording, and connecting with audiences. This is one reason so many people assume he is no longer alive. His career began so long ago that he feels connected to another era. He performed alongside legends who are now gone. He witnessed the rise and fall of multiple generations of country stars. For younger fans discovering classic country music, Gene Watson often seems like a figure who belongs entirely to the past. But he never stopped moving forward. Even well into his later years, Watson continued maintaining an active performance schedule. While many artists his age slowed down dramatically, he remained dedicated to bringing traditional country music directly to audiences across America. Fans attending his shows often expressed amazement that his voice still retained much of the power and warmth that made him famous decades earlier. That dedication has become part of his legacy. Gene Watson represents a rare kind of artist, one who never relied on controversy, trends, or media attention to stay relevant. His career survived because the music itself survived. Today, he stands as one of the last great traditional country singers still actively carrying the sound of country music's golden era. For longtime fans, seeing him still perform is both nostalgic and inspiring. And for those who assumed he was long gone, Gene Watson remains living proof that true country music legends are capable of outlasting almost everything, including time itself. 2. Moe Bandy. There was a time when Moe Bandy seemed to be everywhere. His songs filled country radio, his concerts attracted devoted crowds, and his name became synonymous with the traditional honky-tonk sound that defined an entire era of country music. Yet today, many younger fans have never heard of him, while others are genuinely shocked to discover that he is still alive. Perhaps that is because Moe Bandy feels like a man from another age. Born in Mississippi in 1944 and raised in Texas, Bandy's path to stardom was anything but conventional. Before music took over his life, he was better known as a talented rodeo competitor. He spent years participating in rodeo events and living the rugged lifestyle that many country singers only sang about. Unlike many performers who built a public image around cowboy culture, Moe Bandy actually lived it. That authenticity became one of the foundations of his success. During the 1970s and early 1980s, Bandy emerged as one of country music's most recognizable traditional voices. Songs such as Bandy the Rodeo Clown, Hank Williams' You Wrote My Life, and Till I'm Too Old to Die Young helped establish him as a favorite among fans who preferred classic country storytelling over flashy trends. His music reflected heartbreak, hard work, loneliness, and resilience, subjects that resonated deeply with country audiences. At his peak, Bandy was one of the genre's most dependable hitmakers. He shared stages with some of the biggest names in country music and enjoyed a level of success that many aspiring artists could only dream of achieving. Then, as the music industry evolved, the spotlight gradually shifted elsewhere. New sounds entered country radio. Younger artists captured the attention of record labels. Many stars from Bandy's generation found themselves pushed aside as Nashville pursued different audiences. Unlike some performers who fought desperately to remain in the headlines, Moe Bandy continued doing what he loved most, performing for fans. Because he largely stayed away from controversy and lived a relatively private life, many people eventually lost track of him. Years turned into decades. The country music landscape changed dramatically. One by one, many of the stars who had once shared the stage with him passed away. As a result, countless fans simply assumed Moe Bandy had passed away as well. But he did not. In fact, Bandy continued performing long after many of his contemporaries retired. While he no longer dominates radio playlists, he remains deeply appreciated by traditional country fans who never forgot the music that made him famous. What makes his story remarkable is not merely that he survived. It is that he remained true to himself throughout an industry that constantly demanded change. He never abandoned the style that made audiences love him in the first place. Today, Moe Bandy stands as a living reminder of classic honky-tonk country music. He represents a generation of performers who built careers through authenticity rather than marketing campaigns. For fans who remember his greatest hits, seeing that he is still here feels almost unbelievable. More than half a century after beginning his journey, the rodeo clown is still standing, and country music is richer because of it. 1. T.G. Sheppard. If there is one name on this list that perfectly captures the idea of defying time, it is T.G. Sheppard. For many country music fans, he belongs to the golden age of country radio, a period that feels impossibly distant today. His biggest hits dominated the charts during the late 1970s and throughout the 1980s. Because so many years have passed since then, countless people are genuinely surprised to discover that T.G. Sheppard is still alive, still active, and still connected to the music that made him famous. Born William Neal Browder in Tennessee in 1944, Sheppard's journey to stardom was anything but ordinary. Before becoming a country music star, he spent years working in the music business behind the scenes. He promoted records, learned how the industry operated, and developed relationships throughout Nashville. Those experiences gave him a deep understanding of the business long before he ever became a household name himself. When his opportunity finally arrived, he made the most of it. During the 1970s, Sheppard began releasing a string of successful singles that quickly transformed him into one of country music's biggest stars. Songs like Last Cheater's Waltz, Do You Want to Go to Heaven, and Party Time became fan favorites. His smooth voice and charismatic stage presence helped him stand out in an increasingly competitive industry. The success became extraordinary. Throughout his career, T.G. Sheppard accumulated an impressive number of #1 hits, making him one of the most successful country artists of his generation. At one point, it seemed almost impossible to turn on a country radio station without hearing one of his songs. Yet, as happens with nearly every performer, time moved on. The industry changed. New stars emerged. Country music evolved into something very different from the genre Sheppard had helped popularize. While many artists from his era gradually faded from public view, Sheppard maintained a connection to his audience through touring and special appearances. That longevity is precisely why so many people assume he is no longer alive. After all, he was already a major star when many of today's country artists had not even been born. He performed alongside legends whose names now belong to history. He witnessed the rise and fall of multiple generations of country performers. To younger audiences, he can seem like a figure from a chapter of country music that ended decades ago. But his story did not end. Even as he entered his later years, Sheppard continued appearing at concerts, country music events, and fan gatherings. His enduring relationship with fellow country star Kelly Lang also kept him connected to modern audiences, introducing his legacy to new generations of listeners. Perhaps what makes T.G. Sheppard's survival so remarkable is not simply his age. It is the fact that he continues to embody the spirit of classic country music. He represents an era built on strong melodies, unforgettable storytelling, and genuine connections with fans. Today, while many of his contemporaries are remembered only through old records and faded photographs, T.G. Sheppard remains here to tell his own story. And in a genre built on resilience, perseverance, and heart, that may be the most country thing of all.